At just 19 years old, Fitchen has accomplished the kinds of feats most people write on their bucket lists. He was diagnosed with epilepsy at age 9, and by 15, he'd conquered Mt Kilimanjaro, which cemented his passion for climbing. After a difficult experience climbing Mount Elbrus in 2010 and seeing the huge amounts of litter in the vicinity, Kai decided he wanted to change the world he lived in. Despite his epilepsy, Kai is determined to raise awareness about being eco-conscious and making mountains metaphors.
Joining me in studio today, no, it's not Justin Bieber, it's the inspirational Kai Fitchen. Thanks for being on Doctor's Orders.
Thank you for having me.
You were diagnosed with epilepsy at a young age. How did that feel?
It was a big knock to my confidence. It's very difficult being, well, I was 9 and you just want to go and sleep over at friends' houses, and that feeling of not feeling confident enough just to go to a friend's house is pretty awful.
Well, how did you actually find out that you had epilepsy?
I became quite ill, and that just triggered my first seizure, and then from there...
At the age of 9?
Yeah. And then I just I didn't know what it was, and we went to the hospital, and after a couple of tests, that was the case.
And how did you feel when you were told?
I didn't really know what it was all about,
yes.
And neither did my parents. So when we kind of researched it a lot and got hold of Epilepsy South Africa, and they were a huge help, and then I just kind of linked into that.
So you actually climbed Mount Kilimanjaro at the age of 15
yeah.
to raise awareness for epilepsy.
Yeah, that was the idea. I'd always liked being in the mountains, and then I was like, okay, let's do something big, and Kilimanjaro caught my imagination.
I need motivation to climb the stairs. Did your being diagnosed with epilepsy actually motivate you to do this?
It was only when I started planning for it and when I started telling people that they kind of said, but you've got epilepsy.
Yes.
Are you sure this is that you should do that? And I didn't really take that in. I'm quite stubborn,
yes.
I found out. And if I set my sights for something, I'll go for it.
I didn't let the stigma of epilepsy hold you back?
Yeah, I just wanted to do it, and I don't see why epilepsy or any so-called disorder should stop you from doing that.
And you're not stopping there?
No, not at all. It's just being the next one, the next mountain, which is bigger and better.
So you did this to also raise awareness for epilepsy?
Yeah.
What information do you want to get out there?
I come from a middle-class household, and we didn't know anything about epilepsy. And there are those scary stories where people think it's witchcraft,
yes.
and then they will completely alienate someone from their community. And that's not on, in my opinion. I had great support, and I feel like I need to pass this awareness on to as many youth, especially, as possible.
Kai's first eco-conscious adventure was Cape to Kenya, which he did last year. K2K had to have a small carbon footprint, and one of the main goals was to meet young people and share ideas as to how we could live efficiently and sustainably. This meant all travel from Cape Town to Mount Kenya and back was by basic public transport like taxis, bicycles, and walking. The expedition was a huge success, and Kai and his team met over 600 students at their schools to raise awareness. They taught children how to reduce, reuse, and recycle, and also gave them functional tips for living sustainably. Plus, the expedition team managed to travel 14,000 kilometers in a carbon-neutral manner and reach the peak of Mount Kenya on 20 June 2012.
So you're talking about sustainable adventure travel. It's a new concept. Where does it actually come about?
It kind of arose from Mount Elbrus, which is Europe's highest peak. And we went out there, and it was just like, oh, we're going to go and climb another big peak, and it's all cold, and that's rad. And then you see that there's just trash all over the mountains. And I just didn't want to be part of this community where you disregard the mountain and the communities around it. So the dilemma was, how do I keep this kind of love for climbing mountains around the world, but do it in a way which is environmentally and socially responsible. And Cape to Kenya is just about carbon-neutral traveling, going by, public transport and just sustainable traveling, so cycling, walking. And then I proved on Cape to Kenya that you can do all of these things and you can climb an amazing mountain at the same time. And then the school things were brought in. En route, we just stopped at schools, worked with them on activities that promoted sustainability within your community. So it was just fun-based activities to really inspire the kids to get outside and appreciate what they've got. And it was just beautiful. It was like we met over 600 kids, and I felt for the first time that I was really doing something.
And with your condition, did you have to make any extra preparation?
Yeah, I kind of learned it on Kilimanjaro and Mount Elbrus in the Himalaya before, that I just doubled up my meds.
Yes.
Which that's what my doctor said would be a good idea, just because you're going into an area where there's far less oxygen going to your brain.
Of course.
And that seemed to have worked. And the slogan of my Cape and the Cape expeditions is making mountains metaphors. And especially with epilepsy, it's been a climb from this, well, since I was 9, where I was diagnosed, and you've just got this huge thing that you've got to overcome. And just one step at a time, and eventually you'll make the summit.
Everybody has mountains to climb.
Everyone
in
has.
whatever form.
Yeah.
Yeah. Make mountains metaphors.
That's a way, and I love what I do.
Thank you so much, Kai, for sharing your story. You're an amazing young man, and I'm sure you'll be climbing to great heights in the future.
You've got it.